and we're gonna just go ahead and jump right into the video. I'm not gonna talk y'all today. So first, what I'm doing is I'm just cutting my lamb chops up. I'm trimming a little bit of the fat off. Now that's optional. I did notice that it made it a little harder for me to actually cut the individual chops, but I also need just some new knives, so that could be a reason too. But yeah, so trim your fat if you want. Just go ahead and get everything, cut off the rack, however many you want. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and season our meat. I'm gonna say for this steak seasoning, start with about a tablespoon and then just kind of work your way up. As y'all know, I always say in all my videos, I never use measurements. I just kind of I don't know, my ancestors, they come down and they tap me on the shoulder and be like, girl, put a little bit more in there. And I'll be like, okay, I got you. So yeah, you're gonna do some extra virgin olive oil. You're gonna use the Montreal steak seasoning. I use some smoked paprika, some crushed red peppers, onion powder, garlic powder, the normal. And then I think I even added a little bit of oregano in there too, just so you can kind of have like that green herb look to it. I didn't have any thyme, which I'm so upset about, but it's cool. They still tasted bomb. All right, so once you get your lamb chops all soaked up in that olive oil and seasoning, it's all evenly coated and it looks great, go ahead, set it to the side for a few minutes. And then I'm just briefly showing you everything that I'm using to make this meal. Don't worry, it's going to be in the description box for you. Now, in a normal instance, I would never cook my vegetables first. But when in the middle of me cooking and recording this video, my friend calls me and like, hey, I'm getting ready to, come over for a second. And I'm like, oh man, I'm cooking this good food. I'm making this video. I can't just sit here and eat in front of you. So I had to cut up a couple chops and then, start over. So that's why I'm cooking the veggies first. So you're going to heat your olive oil and your garlic butter in your pan. Get it nice and hot. And then we're going to add our mushrooms. Now, I cleaned these mushrooms and dried them. I cleaned them in water and apple cider vinegar just to make sure I get all of that dirt off of there. All right, so we're going to let our mushrooms saute for about a minute. And I'm just adding seasoning here. I would say about a teaspoon of seasoning. Y'all know I don't use measurements, so I'm really going to try to give y'all measurements. So after that, we're going to go ahead and add our asparagus. I'm going to drizzle a little bit of olive oil on top and about a teaspoon of seasoning again. And that's about all that we need really, because as we season and when we add, our other veggies, we're going to add seasoning. So all the flavors and everything are really just going to get combined in this pan. It's going to be so good. So I'm just moving my asparagus around, making sure that all of the asparagus hits the bottom of the pan and gets cooked. This thin asparagus doesn't take long at all to cook. Like, I think it might have taken like 3 minutes at the most, maybe 4. So I added in some fresh cut garlic because I love, fresh garlic has a way better flavor than that store-bought minced garlic. I use it just because it's easy and convenient, but that garlic does not taste the same as fresh minced garlic for sure. Now I'm adding my onions. And we're going to add a little bit of smoked paprika. Y'all, I love smoked paprika. Like, it just adds such a good flavor to your food. Oh my God. Like, Paprika ain't never had a flavor, but baby, smoked paprika, oh, she lit, okay? So just add a little bit of smoked paprika, and it also adds good color. Like, that's really what I love paprika for. It adds good color, gives you that good, like, seared look, like, so your food isn't bland. I hate bland looking food. Like, feed that to your dogs. So I'm just letting the juices come from the mushrooms on down to the onions, so then that way they can start to cook. My asparagus is about done. I just pulled a piece out to taste it. Make sure it's not too crunchy. Make sure it's not too soggy. You don't want overcooked asparagus, because trust me, it's nasty and you can't chew it right. So now I'm just spreading it on this flat baking sheet. Please excuse my baking sheet, so raggedy looking. But I spread it out so then that way it will like slow down the cooking. It'll cool off faster. It'll slow down the cooking process, and it won't become like, you won't have soggy pieces on the bottom. So I think I let the asparagus cook about 1 or 2 minutes, and then the rest of the vegetables cook for additional 2 minutes after. My rolls, these are some store-bought Hawaiian rolls. I just poke a hole in the top, put in some garlic butter, spread it on, put it in the oven, warm it up. Now I'm mashing my 2 big red skin potatoes. I made a lot of potatoes out of those 2. Watch, wait till you see. So I'm just taking my potato masher, mashing that thing on up. I'm gonna add all my garlic butter that I made. And mash it up some more. Alright, so you will use some buttermilk, and I have a pint of buttermilk. And we're also going to use this Boursin Cheese, and I think I have the garlic herb one. It's so bomb. Like, y'all, I use this in everything. It is like a secret ingredient. It's not a secret no more though, huh? But it's so good, y'all. So I use a little under half of that Boursin cheese. And we're just gonna mash that cheese into our potatoes. And it's so creamy that it's literally gonna melt and break down so easy. Look at it. Alright, so I'm using the buttermilk. I didn't use the whole pint. Like, remember, this is only 2 potatoes, so I'm doing everything by taste pretty much, and look and consistency, excuse me, on how I want it to look. So I'm just adding the buttermilk in slowly until my potatoes are creamy but thick. I still like them to have a little chunk on them, but not too much. And this whole video, like, this is how I used to cook everything at the strip club when I used to work at one. I was cooking, of course, not stripping, but when I worked at the club, this is how I used to cook all the stuff in the back. Besides, I had like a grill on the inside, so I would grill the lamb chops versus sear. But whatever, they still taste good. So I added my seasoning. I just did some Pink Himalayan sea salt, and I also did some fresh cracked black pepper, and I mixed that in. I tasted it just now. Another taste. It's good. Let me add a little more salt. So I'm doing some garlic powder, a little onion powder, mix that all up in there. Look at them mashed potatoes already looking like some champions. Lord. My hungry ass eating them all up. All right, and I am adding a little bit of my favorite steak seasoning, and I think I did just a teaspoon. All right, so we're gonna heat our extra virgin olive oil up, and we're gonna do our lamb chops now in the old-fashioned cast iron skillet, because we know them the best skillets. We're just gonna spread that oil all around. Gonna lay our chops out. Look how they season. Like, that's how you know that your food is seasoned good. It should look seasoned before you cook it. Look at that. Delicious. So we're gonna let it sear on each side for about 3 minutes. I flip mine more than once. That's just how I do it, because I like making sure that each side has that good sear, crisp look. Not burnt, but crisp. Okay, and I'm just adding a little bit of water. This is just to give it some steam and also help it cook. Help that heat cook it too. All right, so now that water has started to evaporate out, I'm just gonna flip it once more. Looking at them, they're just about done. I like to cook them until they're about medium rare to medium, and you'll see why. When you let them rest, they're gonna cook all the way to probably about medium. All right, so I added some beef broth, and this is going to be the start of the zip sauce. You can add other things to the zip sauce. You can make a balsamic zip sauce. You can make like a gravy type tasting zip sauce. Mine's is sweet. This is how we do it at the strip club, baby. We get that sweet zip sauce on them lamb chops, and we go in, okay? So I'm doing a simplified zip sauce. It's just beef broth, dark brown sugar, and butter. And then you're going to leave the seasoning, the flavors, all that, fat and all the stuff that was burnt up in the pan. You're going to leave that in there too, because that's going to add flavor. Because this time I'm not going to add any extra seasoning or anything really to the zip sauce. So you're going to do about 2 tablespoons of butter. Let it melt down. All right, you're gonna bring it to a boil. You see how that's boiling over, all that brown goodness. Looks so good right now. So you bring that to a boil. I like to keep my stove and kitchen area clean when I cook, so y'all gonna be seeing me wiping stuff down all the time. And I'm bringing it to a boil because I want it to be really, really hot. Let it thicken up. Like when you're making that glaze for your ham at Thanksgiving time, want to make sure it get nice and thick. Then we're going to add the chops in there. After we add them chops in there, we just gonna go ahead and baste them with that zip sauce. Flip them over, make sure they get coated. That way it stick to it. I just tasted the zip sauce. I had to make sure it wasn't too sweet. Tastes like candy on candy lamb chops. So I do like to kick my food up a notch. So of course, I added some red pepper flakes. I added a little bit of oregano because, like I said, I like to have that herb look to all of my food. And we just flipping them. You're gonna cook it in this zip sauce for a few minutes there. All right. So once you let the chops cook, I think they about right now. Go ahead and turn that heat off. Let it simmer. You see how that sauce thickened up? And then those are the vegetables on my little raggedy pan. Now let's plate it. 1 scoop of potatoes. Look at those mashed potatoes. They look lovely. And of course, you see my wine, okay? I paired this with a good red wine. Got our asparagus. See how I plopped that roll on there? Look at them mushrooms. They look great. They were so good and juicy and flavorful. And it wasn't too salty. It was just seasoned just right. Now I placed the 2 lamb chops up there crisscross. Because you wish it would. Look at that. Drizzle, drizzle. I'm getting excited. Look at that, y'all. This looks so good. Drizzle some of that zip sauce on there. Let it get all up in them potatoes, because baby, it tastes good with them potatoes. Okay, drizzle a little bit more, because you can't never have too much zip sauce. You gotta let it soak in and stick to all that meat. Then you put some fresh parsley on that thing. Woo! You done. Thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate you.